Kitchen Kings and Queens. I'm back with another Kitchen Quickie. So, if you saw my last video, you saw that I wasn't feeling so well. So, I'm going to continue with simple things, and I'm actually going to make mashed potatoes. Now, I guess kind of a little spoiler of what I just said of simple. These are not simple mashed potatoes. These are the mashed potatoes that my mom would make, which are very rich and very delicious, but they are not simple mashed potatoes. I think I may take out a little bit of the potato and make just simple mashed potatoes with salt and pepper and butter, and then do the rest a la mama, as you might say. But because I think that will probably be better for eating at this moment, and then I could enjoy the really rich ones when I feel better. Okay, so um, just a little update too on the last recipe I did, which was the spaghetti imbuse. That I was a little weary of. If I said that correctly, um, that is how you say that dish in the Abruzzese dialect. And you may be wondering, why don't you know? Didn't your grandfather teach you Italian? No, and I'm going to tell you kind of a sad story here. My grandfather, who lived in Philadelphia and went to school in Philadelphia, he was held back a year because he couldn't speak English, or couldn't speak English well enough for the teacher that he had. That same teacher was also, I think, held back one of his sisters. Shout out to Aunt Rosy. This is in honor of her, because unfortunately she passed at the ripe age of 105, but she was quite a character. So he had his sisters were Aunt Rosie, Aunt Bombine. That's how I knew her. Aunt Eva, who I never met because she unfortunately died young of cancer. Aunt Jean, who is alive and well at 93, I think she's at 93 or 95. So she's there. And then he had a younger brother, a much younger brother named Freddie. So when he was like trying to defend his sister against this teacher that he had trouble with, she actually I don't know, she pushed him or pushed her down the stairs. So those were some really horrible times to be an immigrant. And it's really sad that that's something that they had to deal with. It's very sad that that's part of my family history. But I always remember that story, especially since I am a teacher and I have many immigrant students. So it is important to understand that there's some bad people out there, and there's some people that are very disrespectful of people. So as you can imagine, my grandfather had very little interest in uh, in learning it or keeping up with his Italian and learning or teaching my mom or any of us Italian. So it was probably a pretty traumatizing experience. Fortunately for my grandfather, he did have this really great teacher, Mr. Lazar. That was his teacher that taught him to love math. And he also ran the photography club. And my grandfather loved photography. He collected old cameras. He had in his shop, he had like a dark room, so he developed his own uh, film. He really loved photography. And that, and probably him going through school, he didn't graduate. He did become very successful. He had a business and lots of properties that he rented out. So he really made the most of the American dream that his parents brought him here for, or had him here for. So, you know, it's pretty remarkable. It's a lot harder to do those things now, but he did them. And I think a lot of that is attributed to Mr. Lazar. So while I think about that horrid teacher that abused my family, I also think about certainly more than her. I think about Mr. Lazar. And I think that's the power of a good teacher, is that you remember the lessons. He never told me, or I never knew what that lady's name was, but I knew Mr. Lazar enough to remember it to tell you the story. So that was really cool. Another fun story, since we're talking, since it's Aunt Rosie's uh, honorary episode. Aunt Rosie, she was a handful as a kid. And again, as a teacher in Philadelphia, I get to see, that history doesn't really change all that much, because she went to a school called Gratz, which was in Hunting Park. It's still there. It's still open. In fact, all the schools that my grandparents went to, both sides, are all still open. But Miss Aunt Rosie was such a handful that she would have to be escorted to school. And I forget, I think it was her aunt that would escort her to school. And Aunt Rosie would go in one door, and then she'd go out the other door. And you know where she would go? She would go to Uptown, North Philly, and she would go to the jazz clubs to see the jazz performers. So she was a fun lady. All my family was, and it's sad that so many of them are leaving us and the family dynamics have changed, but she was a lot of fun. I always enjoyed her, and I enjoyed all my family on both sides. So it was just a really, I figured I'd share some of those memories. Okay, so we're almost done with the potatoes here. Okay, so all I've done is peel them, and then I cut them up. This is the last one. And these have they always had a little bit of green underneath. So just make sure you get all the green off. One of them was a little rotten, so I cut most of that potato. But you're just going to cut them up, cut them relatively the same size. Okay. And then I'm going to put them on the stove here, turn them on. let them simmer. And what you want to do when you're making mashed potatoes, when you poke into it with a knife, ideally a paring knife instead of this big knife, if it sticks, if it doesn't stick into the knife anymore, you're probably good to go. Okay, so I'm gonna clean up and we'll come back and put this together. So this is a very quick recipe. The longest time is waiting for the potatoes. Once that's done, we're to heat up the cream and add that to it. Usually we put it in the mixer with the whisk because it breaks it up better. But I've gotten really partial to using the rice mill. A, I don't have to plug in the mixer, and B, it's just it adds kind of like a more bodied uh, texture to the mashed potatoes. Another way you could do it is, well, that's not really mashed potatoes. It's a variation of mashed potatoes, a French way called aligot, which is basically like it's a potato puree, but it's even more so than that. You combine it with a lot of cheese, and it just gets this really like it's a really liquid uh, texture. So that's another way to do mashed potatoes. That is like really best served, I think, for like a steak, like a filet mignon, or like a steak au poivre would be really good with that because you could kind of like put it on the plate and put the filet in the center, and then maybe some demi glace on uh, top of it. Okay, so we'll be right back. Okay, Kitchen Kings and Queens, we are back. So the potatoes are just about done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the cream, and it's really actually half and half that I'm using. So I'm going to just put some half and half in this pan here, and I'm just going to heat it up, okay? And then we're going to do the potatoes. I think I'm actually going to add a little bit more. I'm going to add a little heavy cream too, just to kind of keep this going. Okay, and I'm going to get a colander here. Oh boy. This may be a little loud. Oh boy. Okay. Yay, that worked. Okay. So we're going to take our potatoes and we're going to put them through the colander. And then I'm going to leave this pot here because we're going to reuse that. Put this lid back on there. And I'm going to put a little bit of butter in with that cream. Okay? You kind of want everything hot. The only thing that we're not going to have hot is the cream cheese. Okay? So, like I said, I'm going to do a basic one, and then I'm going to do a souped up one. Okay, just for me. So I'm going to put a little bit of the potato in the ricer, and I'm going to shake off the excess and then put it here. Okay, and then this is going to be mine for today. So all I'm going to do is just rice the potatoes. Okay, I'm going to, I'll leave that there because I'm going to use that. I'm going to use the President butter or President butter. And since this is pretty much all I'm adding, I'm going to add like pretty sizable chunk. I'm also going to add some garlic powder, and then I'm just going to stir that up a little bit. Okay, and that's just going to be mine for me right now, just because I kind of want something a little simple. You know what? I will add just a little bit of cream in just to get things to flow. Okay, so that's going to be my simple mashed potato. Oh, and just a little bit of freshly ground pepper. Okay, so salt, garlic, and butter, and just a splash of cream. Okay, so that's going to be mine for tonight. And then I got my cream boiling here, so I'm going to turn that off. And we are ready to rock and roll. Okay, so we're going to bring back our pot here. We're going to do the rest of the potatoes in the ricer here. And you could see these potatoes are just perfect because they are kind of fluffy and mashing just on their own. Okay. So they really don't take too much coaxing to get to the riced state. And once I'm done ricing all these, I'll give you a view of what the riced potatoes look like, because this is a relatively new technique for me. Like I said, when I make mashed potatoes or my mom makes mashed potatoes, we usually just pop them in the mixer with the whisk attachment. But this way, it just kind of gives, when people talk about like a fluffy mashed potato, it gives it a little bit more fluff. Okay. And I don't know, that's something I'm looking for these days in my mashed potatoes. So this tool, this ricer, is used for a lot of things. So you can use it to make gnocchi. You can use it to make a Norwegian bread called lefse, which I am going to make. I'm not Norwegian. I have no Norwegian heritage, but I don't know. I kind of fell in love with the process, and it has kind of this family holiday tradition, like background to it. So I don't know. I'm going to try it, I think, this year. So we'll do that together. And, it's a pretty involved process where you have to rice the potatoes, and, you make the dough, and then you have to roll it out really thin. So it's like a big process. Okay. So this is what the riced potatoes look like. So almost like little potato pellets. Okay. So I'm definitely going to turn that off now. Okay. So I'm going to add in our cream and butter. Okay, so that we have that. Turn that off. I'm going to add in, this is what makes it my mom's uh, mashed potatoes. Her secret ingredient has always been to add cream cheese to mashed potatoes. And I was recently looking at, I don't know if it was the New York Times that shared the recipe or one of those cooking blogs, and they were saying that this was a Martha Stewart recipe. And it was very similar to this. It was sour cream, which I am not putting in this, but you could definitely put sour cream in. But it was cream cheese and what else? I'm going to put some salt in. And you're going to have to taste this, okay? Because the thing about potatoes is they do take a lot of salt, but they can be over salted. And when they are over salted, you're out of it. Okay, like there's not much you could do other than add more potatoes. And for me, that's not an option because I don't have any more potatoes. Okay, so before I put this, just want to put this. There's a stubborn little bit of potatoes on the rim here, so I want to make sure we don't waste any potatoes. Okay, that thing's in clean. I apologize for that. Ugh. Stupid technology. Apple, you're really getting on my last nerve. So the video cut off because I supposedly didn't have enough storage for them to finish recording. I don't know how that's possible because there's plenty of storage on the phone. There should be. There's nothing on the phone. But anyway, I just wanted to finish and show you the final product. Okay, so this is the mashed potatoes. So just to recap, that was cream cheese, half and half, butter, garlic powder, garlic salt. I added some garlic powder and some ground pepper. Okay, that's traditionally what my mom would use for her mashed potatoes. I hope you try these. I hope you enjoy this video. I'm very sorry that the end cut off, but these are the breaks with technology. So hopefully it will still be something enjoyable and happy heaven, Aunt Rosie. We will miss you, but you lived a very long and a very happy life, and you made many people very happy. And please say hi to Grandpa Joe for me and Grandmom Joe. All right, bye for now.